Sex and the City. Are you friends with any of them?
They all have children, and I'm 10 years older.
In the glittering world of Hollywood, few friendships appeared more glamorous than the bond between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. On screen, they were inseparable, the very heart of Sex and the City. But behind the bright lights and the designer dresses, something darker was brewing. Was their friendship ever real, or was it a carefully staged illusion for the cameras? For years, rumors swirled of icy silences, awkward interviews, and whispers of jealousy on set. And while the public adored Carrie Bradshaw and Samantha Jones as icons of female empowerment, the actresses portraying them were walking a far more complicated path. What started as smiles on red carpets would eventually explode into one of Hollywood's most infamous feuds. From the cancellation of a highly anticipated third movie to explosive Instagram posts that shocked fans worldwide, the Sarah Jessica Parker-Kim Cattrall feud has become a case study in how quickly a friendship can unravel when fame, money, and ego collide. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to uncover the truth. The rise and fall of a friendship that was never as it seemed. This is Secrets Behind the Fame. When Sex and the City premiered in 1998, it wasn't just a television show, it was a cultural earthquake. Four women living unapologetically in New York City, talking openly about love, sex, and independence, became a defining voice for an entire generation. At the center of it all was Sarah Jessica Parker, the stylish, neurotic writer Carrie Bradshaw, and Kim Cattrall, the fearless, sharp-tongued Samantha Jones. On screen, their chemistry was undeniable. Carrie and Samantha embodied the very definition of friendship goals. The kind of ride-or-die loyalty that fans long to see mirrored in real life. Red carpet events, magazine covers, and promotional tours reinforced this illusion. The cast would smile, side by side, draped in couture, bathed in flashing paparazzi lights. Sarah Jessica Parker often praised Kim's performance in interviews, calling her the perfect Samantha, while Kim would return the favor, telling reporters she admired Parker's leadership as the show's central star. For the public, this looked like sisterhood. Women around the world not only idolized Carrie and Samantha, they believed Parker and Cattrall were reflections of that same deep bond. Headlines at the time reinforced the narrative. The Fabulous Four take over Hollywood, or best friends, on and off screen. But even in these carefully staged appearances, sharp-eyed fans and some members of the press noticed subtle cracks. Body language experts later revisited old footage and pointed out the distance in their interactions. Kim often standing slightly apart, Sarah placing herself at the center of group photos, and smiles that sometimes looked just a little too forced. Yet back then, very few wanted to believe it. To the world, they were not just co-stars. They were friends, real friends, as inseparable off-screen as their characters were on-screen. And for a time, both actresses played into that narrative. After all, it was good for the show, good for ratings, and good for their image. What fan would want to imagine their favorite feminist icons secretly at war? By the early 2000s, as Sex and the City soared in ratings and won Emmys, whispers began to circulate that not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Rumors of tension between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall crept into tabloids, hinting that behind the designer clothes and the champagne toasts, the bond between the show's two brightest stars was far more fragile than the public believed. One of the earliest signs came in 2004, during press interviews for the show's final season. When asked about the possibility of a fifth season or a film adaptation, Parker's enthusiasm didn't quite match Cattrall's guarded responses. In one interview, Kim bluntly remarked, "I think we've taken the characters as far as they can go," a statement that many read as reluctance. Parker, sitting beside her, smiled tightly, responding with more optimism. The contrast was subtle, but noticeable. Tabloid headlines soon followed. Are Carrie and Samantha drifting apart? Hetney and tension on the set of Sex and the City. Fans who scoured behind-the-scenes photos noticed small but telling details. Kim often arriving separately to events, Sarah Jessica Parker frequently photographed with Cynthia Nixon and Kristen Davis, while Kim appeared increasingly isolated. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled of unequal pay. In 2004, reports surfaced that Parker, who had become an executive producer on the show, was earning significantly more than her co-stars. While Cynthia Nixon and Kristen Davis reportedly accepted this hierarchy, Kim Cattrall was said to have pushed back. According to one insider quoted in the New York Post, Kim felt underappreciated. She was giving everything to Samantha Jones, but she wasn't being treated like an equal. Even subtle exchanges in public interviews added fuel to the fire. At a 2004 Emmy roundtable, Parker praised her castmates effusively, but when the camera panned to Cattrall, her expression was strikingly neutral. Years later, body language analysts would revisit that footage, pointing to crossed arms and minimal eye contact as silent signals of discomfort. Still, for many fans, these signs were easy to dismiss. After all, in Hollywood, busy schedules and differing personalities often create distance. But for those paying closer attention, the cracks were widening. What had once looked like sisterhood now seemed more like a professional partnership, held together by contract and camera lenses. And as the series ended and talks of a movie began, those cracks were about to split wide open. For years, the rumored feud between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall lived in the shadows of Hollywood gossip columns. But by the mid-2010s, those whispers became undeniable headlines, and in 2017, the illusion of friendship was shattered for good. The trigger was the highly anticipated third installment of the Sex and the City film franchise. Fans had been waiting, producers had scripts ready, and cast members hinted at its return. Yet suddenly, the project was canceled. Almost immediately, anonymous sources pointed to Kim Cattrall, claiming she had made outrageous demands that derailed the movie. The narrative painted her as a diva, unwilling to play ball. But Kim wasn't silent. She took control of her own story in a candid interview with Piers Morgan in October 2017. "The only demand I ever made was that I didn't want to do a third film," she said firmly. "And that was a decision made back in 2016. I'm at a different stage in my life now." Her blunt honesty stunned fans, especially those who had long assumed the SATC sisterhood extended beyond the screen. Then came the moment that transformed rumor into scandal: Kim's infamous Instagram post in 2018. After her brother's tragic passing, Sarah Jessica Parker publicly expressed condolences. Many expected a display of unity during a difficult time. Instead, Kim lashed out. On her Instagram, she wrote directly to Parker, "I don't need your love or support at this tragic time as Sarah Jessica Parker. You are not my family. You are not my friend. So I'm writing to tell you one last time to stop exploiting our tragedy, to restore your nice girl persona." It was a nuclear moment in Hollywood history. A private tension had burst into the open with raw, unfiltered emotion. Fans were shocked. Tabloids exploded with headlines like, "The feud goes public," and "From on-screen friends to real-life enemies." Clips of the Instagram post circulated everywhere, dissected on talk shows, late-night comedy, and morning news segments alike. Sarah Jessica Parker, caught off guard, responded with restraint. "On Watch What Happens Live," she said softly. "It was really upsetting to have it come to that. I just wish we could have handled it differently." Her calm tone contrasted sharply with Kim's fiery words, but the damage was done. The world had seen the truth. The friendship was gone, if it had ever truly existed at all. What made the scandal even bigger was the timing. And just like that, the reboot of the franchise was in the works. The absence of Samantha Jones, the character millions adored, was glaring. Suddenly, this wasn't just a personal rift. It was a professional catastrophe with cultural consequences. The feud had moved from whispered gossip to full-blown scandal, a Hollywood spectacle played out in real time on social media and television screens. The fallout from the Parker-Cattrall feud was swift and undeniable. Almost overnight, the dream of a third Sex and the City movie evaporated. Warner Brothers quietly shelved the project, with insiders admitting that without Kim Cattrall, the film simply couldn't move forward. For fans who had followed Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte for years, the cancellation felt like a betrayal. Social media buzzed with hashtags like "Cha-cha we want say TC3", and many placed the blame squarely on the feud. But the consequences went deeper than a cancelled film. The public fracture between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall divided the fanbase. Some sided with Parker, seeing her as the professional trying to keep the franchise alive. Others defended Cattrall, applauding her for standing up against what they viewed as an unfair hierarchy on set. Message boards, Twitter threads, and fan podcasts turned the feud into a cultural debate about workplace equality, female friendships, and the hidden power struggles of Hollywood. Professionally, Sarah Jessica Parker pressed forward. In 2021, she reprised her role as Carrie Bradshaw in HBO Max's Reboot, and Just Like That. But the absence of Samantha Jones was impossible to ignore. The writers explained Samantha's disappearance as a falling out with Carrie over a business dispute, an eerie mirror of reality. Critics noted the void. Variety described the show as missing its spark, while fans tweeted, "It's just not the same without Samantha." Meanwhile, Kim Cattrall charted her own path. Free from the shadow of Sex and the City, she took on new projects, from Tell Me a Story to How I Met Your Father. Yet no matter what she did, interviews inevitably circled back to the feud. For better or worse, the scandal had become part of her professional identity. In 2022, when she made a surprise cameo in the season finale of And Just Like That, the internet lit up with excitement. Even a brief return as Samantha, filmed separately from her former co-stars, was enough to dominate headlines, proving the lasting impact of the fallout. For Sarah Jessica Parker, the feud left a permanent mark on her image. Though she remained gracious in interviews, the narrative of mean girl behavior lingered in gossip columns. For Kim, the scandal painted her as both rebellious and outspoken, admired by some and criticized by others. What had started as whispers on a film set had now reshaped their legacies, their careers, and the future of one of television's most beloved franchises. In the end, the fallout was more than a canceled movie or a fractured friendship. It was the unraveling of a cultural touchstone. Carrie and Samantha had once defined the modern female friendship on television. Now, their off-screen feud had become a cautionary tale about the pressures of fame, the cost of success, and the painful reality that not all friendships, no matter how iconic on screen, can survive behind the curtain of Hollywood. More than 2 decades after its debut, Sex and the City remains a cornerstone of pop culture. Its impact on fashion, television storytelling, and the representation of female friendships is undeniable. Yet, the legacy of the series is forever intertwined with the fractured relationship between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. For fans, the absence of Samantha Jones in the reboot was more than a plot point. It was a glaring hole in the show's DNA. Samantha, with her unapologetic confidence and bold humor, represented sexual liberation in a way that television had rarely seen before. When critics reviewed And Just Like That, many noted how the series felt muted without her. The New York Times wrote, "Samantha wasn't just part of the show, she was its fire." Kim Cattrall's portrayal of Samantha Jones has since been immortalized as one of television's most iconic performances. Clips of her sharp one-liners still circulate widely on TikTok and Instagram, proving that Samantha's voice continues to resonate with new generations. In many ways, the character has outgrown the series itself, standing as a cultural icon independent of the feud that overshadowed her later years on screen. For Sarah Jessica Parker, her legacy is equally complex. As Carrie Bradshaw, she became synonymous with cosmopolitans, Manolo Blahnik heels, and the very idea of single life in the city. Her performance shaped how women saw themselves on television, inspiring countless think pieces, academic essays, and even university courses analyzing the show's feminist themes. Parker's professional reputation as a producer and leading lady solidified her as one of television's most influential figures. But in the court of public opinion, the feud left scars. While some fans continue to adore her, others view her leadership on set as part of the problem that pushed Cattrall away. The feud itself has become part of the show's mythology. When people discuss the brilliance of Sex and the City, they almost inevitably mention the backstage drama. Documentaries, podcasts, and countless articles now dissect the Parker-Cattrall relationship as if it were an extension of the series itself. The feud is no longer just gossip, it's history. Perhaps the most striking part of the legacy is how it mirrors the very themes the show once celebrated. Sex and the City was about the strength, complexity, and contradictions of female friendship. In life, Parker and Cattrall demonstrated those same contradictions: loyalty and betrayal, connection and estrangement, admiration and resentment. Their story became a cautionary tale and a reminder. Even the most glamorous friendships, the ones we idolize on screen, can fracture under the weight of ambition, ego, and fame. In the end, the cultural footprint of Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall is undeniable. Together, they gave the world a friendship that felt real, that inspired millions, that became part of television history. But their off-screen feud ensured that their legacy would always be remembered with a mix of admiration and heartbreak. The story of Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall is more than just Hollywood gossip. It's a reflection of the fragile line between image and reality. On screen, they embodied the friendship every woman dreamed of: supportive, glamorous, unbreakable. Off-screen, their relationship was marked by pay disputes, creative differences, and personal wounds that spilled into the public eye. The cancellation of a third film, the public Instagram outburst, and the absence of Samantha Jones in the reboot are not just milestones in their feud. They are markers of how deeply personal conflict can reshape cultural history. Carrie Bradshaw and Samantha Jones will forever be remembered as one of television's most iconic duos, but the actresses behind them remind us that the magic of the screen doesn't always mirror real life. In a way, their fractured bond has become part of the legacy of Sex and the City. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How real are the friendships we idolize? How much of what we see in Hollywood is performance, and how much is truth? And perhaps most importantly, when fame and fortune are at stake, can any relationship truly survive intact? The feud between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall left behind more than headlines. It left a cautionary tale that even the most powerful friendships, celebrated by millions, can crumble under the weight of ego, ambition, and time. But this is just one of many stories hidden beneath the glitter of fame. And in Hollywood, for every dazzling friendship we see on screen, there may be another shadow lurking behind the camera. Join us as we continue to pull back the curtain, revealing the secrets behind the fame. Subscribe now, because the next story might shock you even more.